we're back. The final push, the end game. This is the final video on this Titanic masterpiece, and as you can hear, I have returned to my normal voice, and I'm recording this video right now. By now you know the game. I will comment on the video as per usual, and we will continue with the upper deck, the boat deck. These are some of the pieces, and if you're wondering what I'm holding in my hand is, well, funny story, I lost one of the upper pieces of this structure, the roof piece. I've misplaced it and I couldn't find it at the time I was building it. I was really frustrated, so I had to build one from scratch, and that's what I've done. A funny thing is, I finished the model, I found the piece. Yeah. So anyway, I painted it in the appropriate colors, and voila, here it is. I'm looking at this and oh my god, my fingers are so dry. But anyway, this is the paint, the light gray paint XF83, and the dark gray is the XF53. Yeah, so that's what I've used. To recap, we've built this, and now we have to build this little house on the prairie, which sits on the boat deck right about here, and we have to build this, and we have to build all of this. So we best get moving on. Oh, by the way, we have some photo etch pieces to attach, and yeah, well, let's get moving on, shall we? I think I need to explain something. So in this piece, we have an opening in front which we have to close because of the Flyhawk expansion set. The Flyhawk expansion set has the housing for the aft dome, and that modification is basically apart. It's not flush with this piece like it is from the box. So from the kit, you have these two pieces that come together like a jigsaw puzzle. In the Flyhawk expansion set, they don't. They come separately, so you need to close off this area so it doesn't have a gaping hole inside. And that's what I've done, and this is the finished product. So, dear viewer, we are currently building this piece, and we have already finished this, this, and this. And this is the last roof structure for the Titanic, where the last funnel lives, here. Because the Flyhawk expansion set has extra ducts for this piece, we need to remove the old ones, or the original ones, from it. And that's what I'm doing here. It's very satisfying. And because we don't want any gaps between the funnel and the duct, I placed the funnel temporarily on the piece, and I'm just maneuvering the duct in its place and gluing it as I do so. Here's a fun fact for you. If you have been watching this series, and in particular if you watched the 5th video in this series, you might have seen that this piece was already built up and was on the top of the ship. And this is kind of a back in time stuff. So I just wanted to make it a little bit different. You know, no matter how much I prepare and be careful with the masking, there's always something like this that happens, which is paint is seeping through the masking film. I really hate that. You guys have the same problem, or am I just alone in this? Anyway, a lick of paint and brand new. Back on the boat deck, I'm masking off this aft dome section, and I'm gonna paint that square in white just like I did the first one, because I think it's supposed to be white, because you know, you want a lot of light to be reflected to have this ground illusion of grandeur. So yeah, that's what I've done. It doesn't say how it looked, but I'm guessing that would be the case. Alright, the grooves. The grooves on the side of the walls needed to be enlarged. I used a little file, this square file, and made it wider. I think that a lot of you probably know why I'm doing this, but if you don't, let me tell you. Because we're using the Flyhawk expansion set decks, which are glued on top of the original decks, there is a bit of a problem with clearance. See, it's 1 millimeter taller than it's supposed to be, or 1 millimeter thicker than it's supposed to be. So that's why we need to enlarge it in order for the side walls to fit snugly to the decks. And that is why, dear viewer, I have been doing this to make sure that it fits nice and snug as a bug in a rug. Okay? Okay. See, perfect. Slides in, fantastic. Now I just glued in these two side thingy walls, already painted, and now we're going back to the boat deck and we're going to do some modifications here as well. I've actually placed inside some clear plastic film to replicate the illusion of windows, and you've seen me done this before, so you know. After that, I placed it onto the deck and glued it in place using an ample amount of cement to do so. Here I'm basically repeating the steps only with a different piece, putting in some clear film and then putting it onto the deck, gluing it in place using an ample amount of, you guessed it, cement. Eagle-eyed viewers might be asking yourself, why am I using cement to attach a plastic part to a metal part, the brass plate that it's on top of the roof? Well, let me tell you. That's just because there are pegs protruding from the roof that I placed there in order to secure and align the funnel. After that, I used an ample amount of CA glue and just poured it inside the funnel like I'm showing here and stirred it around to make sure that it hits the spot. You know, on this project, more than any other model that I've made so far, I've done a lot of experimentation. I mean, it's kind of daunting to think that you're experimenting with a model that you spent so much money on, but if you don't try new stuff, you never learn new stuff, so yeah. And this is the housing for the aft grand dome, or less of a grand dome. Basically, it's just the cover for the dome. On this particular brass piece, that's the cover for the aft grand dome, the side walls came together nicely and I managed to make it square and flush, but I would prefer a soldering iron to do this job in the future. Homemade wash with a highly diluted black paint. The famous chrome marker pen from AK Interactive. I love this thing. Did I mention that I love it? I love it. If you are a car guy or a motorcycle guy, this is a must-have. It comes in this pen form or a little bottle. It covers nicely, it's self-leveling, so you can basically use it with a brush as well, and the end result is fantastic. In this case, I was just using it to mark out the lights. The only thing left is the roof, and Bob's your uncle, we're done with this piece. On to the next one. Here I'm measuring basically the center point at which I have to place down this little smoke room or aft entrance. Yeah, just wanted to make sure that it's straight. So this is how the boat deck is looking right about now. As you can see, I've done some little detail work. I managed to do the orange stripe on the edge. Now I'm just poking holes with my tweezers in the balsa deck to prepare it for the eventual rigging. This step is necessary, otherwise you can't put the rigging wires through the deck. And I'm using a drill here because it's easier. I know the holes are going to be much bigger than the actual strings that I'm going to be using, but we can rectify this problem by adding a little bit of CA glue on top and just, you know, plugging the hole with that and then painting over it with the wood grain color. That's basically how I did it, and it worked out pretty well. Here I'm showing you the standoffs for the boats, the lifeboats, and you have to assemble a lot of them. These ones I've already made, but I'm going to show you how I did this one. So basically you just cut it out with a very sharp knife. I'm using a ruler for my back plate. You have to have some sort of hard surface to do this, otherwise the pins are going to bend into a soft surface and you're going to bend the whole piece. But yeah, you cut it out and then you have to kind of fold it like a little origami thing, like so, squeeze it together, and then you just make two lips, one on each side like so, and Bob's your uncle, you're done. Now you can use CA glue to attach it together, but I just folded it together and put CA glue on the bottom and attach it to the deck, and it works out pretty nice. And It's far less complicated than it sounds or is seen on the video. Trust me, this is the easy part. Ah, the lifeboats. The ones that are not many, but are there. So, yeah, I painted the majority of the lifeboats in the previous video. Now I'm just painting the covers for the lifeboats, the covers that go on top. I'm using this stonish, grayish, greenish color. I think that it makes it somewhat visually attractive. It might not be the correct paint, but I like it. So that's the end of it. Just another little panorama shot of the boat deck with the things placed on top of it, and just to see the progress. You see the little standoff for the boats, pretty nice, and both sides, of course, all of them. Yeah, look at that, fantastic. And this is my ingenious way of painting the squares onto the holes. I masked out the backside with some millimeter thin masking tape, and then I just painted over it. Yeah, who would have thought such a simple solution to a somewhat complex problem? Now it actually looks the part. Although when you turn it around, wait for it, wait for it, wait for it. The results are mixed. You can kind of see the result, but you have to be really close. It's lifeboat time, lifeboat time. Here they are, all the lifeboats, and these two on top, which have more detail. Remember how I said that I already painted them? Well, I did, but now I'm just showing you them. This is how they come from the box, from the Flyhawk expansion set. They're not perfect, you can see some imperfections in the plastic, but don't lose any sleep over this. Just be pragmatic. Place them on the ship in such a way that those things are not going to be seen. And you're done. No trying to do sleep over this. So yeah, painting them was a breeze. Pretty enjoyable actually, because it's a little quiet time, doing the same thing over and over and over, getting better with every single boat. And yeah, this is how they look when they're painted. Nice. In the Flyhawk expansion set, you get two lifeboats that are a little bit more detailed. They have the interior, and they are placed on top of the covered lifeboat. So basically it's a sandwich of two lifeboats, one on top of the other, and this one sits on top on the very front of the ship. And I think it's a nice detail. You can either display it on the side, hanging over the side of the ship if you can do it, or just on top, which is easier. I went for the easy part. Right, the boat cranes, the boat hoists. As you can probably hear from my tone of voice, I wasn't particularly happy with these assembly because they are very complex. I will show you how I assembled one, and this is the plan of how you're supposed to do it. I mean, it's pretty straightforward and simple. You think, okay, you'll just build the frame up, you put the pieces in, and then you kind of fold everything like origami, and then you end up with something like this. It looks nice, doesn't it? It's rather ravishing, but as you will see, there are many steps involving this process, and it starts by cutting the pieces out. Then you need a sip of patience and a shot of good luck, because you have to bend these bastards like there's no tomorrow. I still think that using a soldering iron would be easier, but because I don't have one, I'm using CA glue, and this is how I'm bending them. One bend at a time, and make sure that I'm straight, level, and square. And if the almighty gods of model making give it, you end up with something like this. You know what? I thought rigging would be more challenging, but I kind of like it. I really do. It's kind of calming and relaxing, and yeah, thumbs up. And there we go, ladies and gentlemen, the first funnel done. Pretty nice. Now on to the rest. Here I already attached the two decks together because I'm planning to put the whole structure inside the ship's hull. When I attached the whole thing together, when everything was structurally sound, there were some problems, and you can see here there are gaps. There are just certain things that you need to fix, and unfortunately I also experienced a little bit of a warpage with the decks again, which I had to remedy using this little styrene piece to fill the gap. I'll show you on the other side here. See, an enormous gap. I don't know how that happened, but I fixed it. After that, I did some cosmetic work, some detail work on the hull of the ship and on the decks and, you know, all around. This is the aft mast. I completely forgot about this one, so I had to do it now. Okay, so a little bit of a update on the build process. I've managed to secure the deck, as you can see, and I painted all the details. I'll move the camera around so you can see from the top view. It actually looks pretty cool from the top view, as long as you don't get too close. There are minor imperfections that I am trying to And I'm back after that heart-stopping moment. Oh, good lord. The camera actually fell down from its mount directly on the Titanic. It tore off the chimney and it bent the ladder, chipped the paint on the duct, and I seem to be missing a whistle, which is missing in action at this point. I have to find it and not bring you it back. But other than that, it's not that big of a deal. But that was not a planned moment, so I have to be really careful when I'm moving this camera in the future, especially looking at the pivot on the top. Yeah. Anyway, what I was trying to say is that now that everything is well detailed up to this point, I painted the rails in the wood color and then of course proceeded to putting a lacquer on top to seal the paint. I'm now ready to attach the various pieces of machinery on top of the deck to finish it out, and that's what I'm going to do when I find the whistle and put it back into the chimney stack.
I found the whistle! Yay!
I attached the whistle, thank God for that. The ladder is still a bit crooked and I have to fix the paint chips here and on top of this chimney. And I've just noticed that this is also bent. Oh good lord. I'm gonna try to fix that as well. But another thing that I found out is that this little wire is kinked. The reason for that is I've accidentally dropped a little bit of CA glue on top and it just crimped it, and I have to rectify it now, and it's gonna be a pain. I'm gonna have to push it inside the hole and stretch it and hold it in that position until it sets. So, well, I'll fix that. Here I'm just placing down some miscellaneous stuff that needs to go on top of the boat deck. Some vents, ducts, machinery, and all that, you know, all that juicy stuff. Fences! Wow, we're at this stage of the build. So happy. When it comes to fences, I actually don't know the correct procedure how to attach them. This was my second attempt at doing so. The first was, of course, the bow and then the poop deck. Now I'm doing the boat deck. And I still have many fences to go. I was contemplating whether to put them before I put all the miscellaneous stuff on, or do it afterwards, or maybe I should put them directly onto the piece before I glue them onto the deck. I thought about everything. At the end, I went with this method, which was to put the fences last, and thank God I did, because I had a little timber accident, as you might have seen, and it would be a lot worse if I hadn't done so. What can I say about the Flyhawk expansion set fences? Well, some of them are a little longer, so you need to trim them. They're not shorter, they're longer, so that's a good thing. And you need to think about how other pieces will relate to the fence. Like in this instance, when you have to fit a pipe that goes from the chimney stack to the deck, and it goes through the fence. Now you have two options: to put the pipe first and then cut the fence to fit the pipe, or did it like me, put the fence first and then try to squeeze the pipe in. So it's a little bit of a logistical puzzle that you need to solve. This piece is particularly challenging because you have so many pipes going all around. So here I was left with no choice but to cut the fence. I should have put the fence first, but I wasn't thinking about it. And besides, I don't think you can actually put the pipes through the fence because the opening in the fence is far narrower than the width of the pipes. Here's a little bit of a progress report on the Titanic. So I have attached the majority of fences on the top decks. Now I'm just attaching the little stairs that I've pre-painted. And after that, I'm going to continue to attach the last few fences on the aft side, as well as the cranes and the stairs right here in the front. After that, I'm gonna tackle the landing the lifeboats, and I have them here. Little cup. They're all virtually done. I just have to attach the decals on the sides, and of course we have the cranes for the boats, which are also assembled. They're in this little cup here, painted and ready to go. And after all that is done, I will be attaching the last awkward pieces, which is the front and the rear mast, which I've also painted. And then we'll be going towards attaching all the different antennae and wires and cables and stuff, and that's going to be the last step in this build process journey. So let's carry on. Decals. Well, these are aftermarket decals for the Titanic, and there's a whole bunch of them. These are basically meant for the lifeboats, and they're all duplicate because you need to put them on both sides, on both ends of the lifeboat, but I didn't. I just put them on one side because they're kind of tedious to put on, so I just put it on the front, and I was happy about it. The lifeboats are attached to their standoffs using CA glue. It's thick or thin, it doesn't really matter, just as long as it does its job. And I'm using CA glue for the majority of the pieces that I'm attaching to the boat deck because it's just fast and it's convenient. Et voila, almost finished. The top deck of the Titanic, a little panorama shot before we move on. This is how it looks. Ooh, masts. Now I'm really getting nervous because I'm very clumsy and I'm using my hands in a very erratic way, and I'm just hoping that I'm not gonna hit the mast. Thankfully I didn't. I didn't want to thread the nylon string directly through the hole in the bow of the ship. I wanted to do something different, so I'm using this copper wire that I got from a category 5 patch cable, soft wire, and I'm making a little loop. I'm securing the ends, making a little tie, and then I'm securing with CA glue. Ideally, I would kind of just, solder it, but again, I don't have a soldering iron. So this just works fine. Apart from this little knot. But yeah, well, that's just how it looks. So pretty much till the end of this video, I'm just gonna be showing some rigging action going on. Yeah, rigging. That's all. There's a lot of strings to attach. And what can I say? It's a ship. We have to do it. Enjoy it. This antenna on top is the most challenging part of the rigging of the ship, and it doesn't make it easier if the strings that you are attaching together are flexible, because it creates a whole lot of problems. Take into account, if you're going to be using nylon strings, they're flexible and stretchable. Don't put tension on them when you're putting them down on the board. Make sure they're slack, because inevitably when you're going to be rigging them and putting them up onto the masts, you're going to stretch them out. It might be too much. Ideally, you need to have a little bit of slack so that the wires hang down, wire sag, if you know what I mean. I didn't manage to do that effect, and I'm pretty unhappy about it, and I'm not going to go and fix it because it's done. But you know, just take into account that wire sag in this instant will make the ship look far more authentic. We are 99% done. All that is left is the benches. And the benches are a unique set of problems that you need to solve. They are very difficult to assemble, and you will need the help of this little jig that you can 3D print. I found the file online. I hope I'll remember to put the link where I found it. But essentially it's making the S-bend of the boards. Personally, I think they are a little bit too big for the scale, but it is what it is, and this is how you assemble them together. I've pre-painted them, of course, and then I'm just bending them over and gluing them together. The sides come like this, and then you put the bench inside this little jig. Make sure to push it up, really up, and then push the two pieces together to make the S-bend. And then you basically have the shape of the bench. Then you just glue the sides together, and voila, here we have the bench. There she is, boys. After such a long time, it's finished. My god, this was a marathon run if I ever had one. It was ups and downs and sideways and all that, but at the end, I'm really happy with how the ship turned out. I mean, comparing it to the first Titanic that I built, this is like a high definition picture of this iconic passenger ship that sadly sank into the ocean such a long time ago. I would like to take this opportunity and thank you all so very much for supporting me, sending me messages, and sticking with me in this whole project, waiting for the videos to come. Here they are, they're all here. So thank you very much. Thank you for watching. Thank you for sharing, for subscribing, for caring, and all that good stuff. Enjoy the video to the end, and I'll see you soon in the next one. Bye bye, guys.